Oh man, all right, let's do it.
Yeah, get beautiful.
Well, I can go someplace else. I'll give you two.
No, this looks really nice.
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Where are you located?
You look like you're in a warmer locale than we are.
This is my house in Leon, Guanajuato, Mexico.
Definitely warmer. Nice, looks nice.
Yeah, it's a famous soccer player's house. He sold it to me, and I'm telling you, it is freaking gorgeous.
All right, and your last name is Matsko, yeah?
Yeah.
I have my wife. Her best friend is Jessica Matsko from Ohio. Maybe you know her.
Kidding me?
No,
I
kidding.
really thought there was just a few. There's very few. It was like my great-great-grandfather came over. It's a made-up name, Matsko, because they didn't know how to spell Mako. You know, he was Czechoslovakian, so they wrote that down. So we are all related somehow.
Oh, I love it.
Same story with my last name. That
Horween is Nick's name.
Yeah, my great-great-grandfather was Ukrainian. They just probably didn't hear what he said. So we're all related somehow because I think we're the only branch.
Do you know where from in Ukraine?
I don't around Kiev, north of there. I think we've never gone back or tried to locate her.
Yeah,
the family.
Very interesting. It's a very interesting country.
Yeah, a lot of his relatives were here in Chicago already, or some of them were, which is why he came here in the first place. So,
Curtis, you might not know this. Nick's a fifth generation leather tanner here in Chicago. So that Ukrainian fellow came here during the Chicago World's Fair in
1890s. Yeah,
like learned leather tanning and decided to start a tannery. So that's sort of like where the show comes from. Here is we're very much into the leather world, into leather tanning. And I used to work for Nick, and now I have my own leather brand, which kind of reminds me of your brand.
We just like manufacturing and hard goods in general.
Yeah, we like people that make stuff.
Yeah,
which is why you're here. So, Curtis, are you feeling good? Are you ready to start the show?
Anytime.
All right, let's do it. And what's your title, by the way? You're just CEO? Are you founder? How do you prefer?
I'm all of those names together. You can call me whatever you want.
All right. Curtis Matsko's here.
CEO, founder, I'm the energy.
Welcome to the show, Curtis. You're the CEO and founder. You're all the titles for Portland Leather Goods. I have to tell you, Curtis, I came across you from some advertising that you had on Meta. So I think I saw it on Facebook or Instagram. And the first thing that popped up to me was your breaker boot. And being a person that's really into boots and really into leather, I had to click on it and I researched your company. It turns out you do so many incredible things. Maybe starting with the breaker boot, can you introduce me to some of the products that you guys are doing at Portland?
Well, I'm going to flip that. I usually do that. I'm going to do that, be annoying with all your questions. I'm going to flip it around. Tell you where we started. We started with a fight between me and my girlfriend about 7 years ago. She had a really bad job. And I said, quit your job. And she said, what am I going to do if I quit my job? And I said, don't worry, I'm a genius. I will start up this huge company and we'll be successful. She said, what are we going to sell? And I said, well, I don't know that yet, but I will come up with something. The week after that, I walked into Oregon Leather. It's just a little leather store in Portland, Oregon. Bought a little piece of leather and started making a refillable journal. And thought about it, just were way too long. I was afraid to cut it. I was just overthought this thing. I went back. I realized it was a garbage leather. And I went back in. I said, you're going to have to teach me something about this. So they gave me the owner's daughter. And she said, no, don't buy that. Don't buy this. Took me in the basement, started showing me what was what. And I created a refillable leather journal and started selling it. And I'm a marketing guy. I am not a craft guy. I am not a make guy. I am a marketing first guy. So I made something I knew would sell. And we went out to art festivals with that leather journal. And whenever anyone would come in to buy that, and they'd pick it up and they'd say, I've always wanted this. And they would set it down and then they would walk off. And I'm like, why in the hell didn't they buy? Like, I literally put my tent right by where 10,000 people were walking. Why didn't everyone buy this?
Right.
So my marketing came in and I started creating different kinds, different sizes, different personalizations, everything different. Then we started going into leather bags. We started blowing up. We set records. Boise Art Festival, Anacortes Art Festival, Seattle. They take a percentage of what you actually make. They give it to the local community for arts. And they said in 50 years, no one's ever sold more than us. We were doing $30, $40, $50,000 in a 3-day weekend.
Oh.
And so
these are not necessarily the highest price point bags. So, that's moving a lot of bags, right?
Yeah, well, that's what happened with Oregon Leather, man. We were going down and buying everything they had, and then they were taking us down in the basement. And before anything would come out to everybody else, we were taking the pallets out from them. And he's like, "You're stealing all my good leather. You have to come up with leather somewhere." So we started reaching out everywhere in the country, trying to find that leather. Because as you gentlemen know, you pick up something, especially if it's a small product, it's that feel. It's got to look and feel like leather. It's got to smell like leather. That's what the difference was between us and everybody else. And so it started with the journal. It went into a leather tote bags. It went into other more and more and more. And the shoes came across after that.
Mm-hmm.
Portland Leather Goods will do over $100 million in sales this year.
Sheesh.
Crazy.
That's a lot of leather, Curtis.
You have no idea. You have no idea how much leather we really use and the quality that we use. So it really started there. The shoes are absolutely phenomenal. The boots are phenomenal. And we sell it at a price that you can't beat. Because what I learned by going to those art festivals is you had to be at such a good price that it blew everybody else away. Right? That they couldn't say no, because there was 3 or 4 other people making leather goods right down the row.
Mm-hmm.
And they were hand stitching one little wallet like that. And they were charging so much for it that it was an investment. I'm from Portland, Oregon. I grew up in Montana. Everybody I know is broke.
Mm-hmm.
They just didn't have the money to spend on that. So if I wanted everyone to buy, I had to be able to make this in a way that they could get this a simple, beautiful thing where it wasn't the craftsmanship as much as the quality of the leather. The leather is what stood out.
Well,
right?
tell us, since we're the leather nerds here.
Yeah, please.
Tell us about your leather. Where is it tanned? What kind of grades are you using? Like the grains? You doing all full grain stuff? The name of the podcast? what kind of stuff are you using?
We use almost all full grain leather. And the reason that we do that, especially because our number one selling bags are sewed inside out and then turned, and they have hard corners. And if you use any type of a buffed non-full grain leather, it's going to break out those corners.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely going to do that. So that's my story. So you're a leather podcast. And so I'm going to tell you, we started going to a place in California that everybody knows. We started going to Red Wing. We started going to every tannery we could in the US, trying to have it made for us. And it really, the amount that we were purchasing, no one could keep up to. It collapsed them all.
That makes sense with that scale that you're talking, $100 million of product. We were talking about that before we started speaking with you. Is like that's a significant. That's probably everything that, maybe not everything you could make, but a significant chunk of what Nick's Tannery could make on an annual basis.
But may I ask what you guys do in a square foot per year?
How many feet we're doing?
Yeah,
I mean it changes. It changes so much, and it's a tough question for us because one of our products is a specialty horsehide product. So I don't know how much you know, if you know anything about us, but we do.
I do. I know a lot.
Okay, so shell cordovan, that's a piece that takes us 6 months, and that's only like 2 feet. So the footage number for us is a little bit deceiving, but $100 million in sales is a ton.
That's a lot of leather,
and especially, I mean, I think that I'm actually even underestimating that a little bit because our price per square foot tends to be industry, pretty high in the industry. And even if you go down a little bit, the number of feet that is increases a lot. So I'm sure you're running a huge amount of, and I'm on your website now. You have a lot of colors too. So it's not just like all one color either. You've got an inventory management system.
I'm going to let you know the secret to that color. Anybody out there is people still want the browns.
Mm-hmm.
The colors are only there as a sub-color for people who already own one or two and want something else, right? They all go to that mid-brown to start off with. That's the game. It's all the mid beautiful browns. So I know Horween. Everyone knows Horween. We know what you guys do, and you are the brand for, I want a piece of leather that is going to be beautiful and soft, that it's going to run for years. And in 20 years, I'm going to pull it out of my pocket and I'm going to look at that thing and say, that is fantastic, right? That is what Horween leather is. And we use the best leather, but we kind of ran out of things in the US, and we happened to have a young lady that was working for us. And she went to Auburn and was a sorority girl. And she said, hey, one of my sorority sisters married a guy from Leon, Mexico. And I got a contact. We should fly down there and meet people. So 5 years ago, next week, we flew down to Mexico. And I remember coming into Leon. It's 2 million people. And I said, why does your sorority sister live in Leon? And she said, quality of life. And I said, what are you talking about? Quality of life? I live in Portland. It's pretty awesome. Why in the hell would anyone want to live in Leon, Mexico? It's an industrial city. It's amazing. It has over 500 tanneries. It has 950 shoe manufacturers in Leon, Mexico. It is a commercial town, and their strength is leather. And they started showing us these leathers and making, and we're like, oh my gosh, that's where all the leather is, right? Now, they're all U.S. hides because they get from the four big packers and they come down into Leon, Mexico, and they tan them and they send them back up, either the automotive industry or the shoe industry or the bag industry. And so it is literally the best leather that you can get. They've been doing it for 100 years here. They are fantastic. And we use all the biggies down here. We use Lafarque, we use Panamericana, we use Winnie, we use Fevox, we use Vargas, we use Kodiak, we use Alphamex. Just like Horween is the high end of this, Alphamex is the best suede maker in the Americas. Bar none. They're the best. Everybody goes to them. So we were able to come down and get the leather we needed. And once we found out that we could get enough leather, then the business just scaled to that next level.
Can you give me a sense too of how you forecast that? Because you're talking about so many different products as well as so many different color offerings. Are you forecasting, say, hey, brown's our biggest hit. We're going to do a lot of brown. Here's a purchase order, Mr. Tanner, for X amount of leather that we think we're going to require over the next year. How are you thinking about forecasting, or does it not work that way at all?
No, it doesn't. And yes, it does. And so I love talking to somebody who knows tanneries, because I know tanneries as well as anybody. So I'm going to tell you the truth of the matter here. Okay. This week, we are set to receive 290,000 square feet of leather.
This week.
Now, here's the thing. We won't get it all. Because we use full grain leather, and they're buying entire U.S. hide trucks that come, they're A, B, C, D, and E tier. So they're tiered out. So a truck is based on that. Our main brown leathers go from a dark brown, smooth. It's very hard. It's the hardest to make, and the middle brown and the light browns, right? It's just oils. It's all natural. It's you can only use a certain percentage of the hides for that, okay? Then we have the pebble on the other side. We have the dark pebble, we have the medium, and we have the lighter. Those 6 are the basis of any type of a company, not all the colors, right? So I can tell you that our nutmeg, our pebbled medium brown, is going to be 17% of all the sales of that particular. If you have 10 to 12 colors of a bag, that's going to be 17%. How do I know that? Because it is every week, and it is every year, and it's real easy. But what we have to do is we have to project, because of leather being such a difficult thing to make and to accomplish. They can promise you anything, but difficulties are going to create it. So we're not going to really get that. We could get anywhere from 120 to 240,000 square foot of what was promised and what's actually supposed to be delivered, right?
Wow.
So last year, as you may or may not know this, what happened here is, first of all, hide prices shot through the roofs. Absolutely brutal on everyone. It went from 32, 34, 35 for native up to 70, right? It was brutal. They went way up. But as soon as that started to go down, the problem became the chemicals. for the chemicals that we use, they're made in Italy and the raw materials are sourced in Ukraine. And that put the crack on everything. So because of the shortages, because of the pandemic, and because of the Ukraine war, for some of our suppliers, they didn't know what they were getting. They would get cans that say it was the same thing. They'd put it through the same formula and it was coming out different. So we legitimately, our scaling is on the supply of the leather. Can we get enough? We had some people in one time and they say, can you show us your sales projections?
Right.
And the head of our marketing said, go to production. Whatever they make, we sell. So it's the same thing. So how do we project that? Browns are going to be that major thing. I call them the core leathers, right? So I go with the 3 middle browns pebble, 3 middle browns here, and then the black pebble and the black smooth. Okay. Those are going to be 82% of all the leather that we make.
Okay.
If you have 20 other colors, they're going to be 18%.
That's really surprising and the reason I'm surprised by it is just looking at your website. It's so bright. It's so colorful. It's so different than my brand where we make mostly men's wallets that are, very much earth tones and heavy waxes, heavy oils. There's a lot of lack of brightness. It's very uncolorful. Something you said was really, really surprising to me, and I'm not completely informed. I was under the impression that some of the hide market, depending on what you said you're heavy, what type of steers are you buying? Like some of the heavier stuff I thought wasn't as expensive as it used to be, but it fluctuates, right? Yeah.
So, here's the reality of working with the tannery. They're always delayed. They're always early in raising your prices, and they're late in moving back after that bump starts to settle back down, right? Then they'll delay that. So that actually hits you more. So it spiked up, it came down, and by the time you got together with them enough times to have them switch your pricing back over, they were trying to change their pricing because of the chemical shortage. And chemical shortage was huge here in Leon. I'm telling you, it was gigantic. It was the biggest problem, and not just a shortage of the chemicals. It was they were sending alternatives that they could not verify was the same recipes.
Were you experiencing the same thing, Nick?
No, I mean, we have in the past. I mean, you
guys are using different stuff,
yeah,
certainly.
It's different. It's different stuff. We did experience, I mean, especially stuff getting hung up in customs. I mean, so you'd finally get something on a container to you, and then it sits in customs for 4 weeks. And it's like, well, what's going on? It's like, it's frustration top to bottom. I mean, so the chemical thing is definitely, or inputs or whatever, whether it's extracts or acids or dyes. I mean, it was all, anything that was coming from somewhere else was a challenge. Yeah, but I agree with that statement that if someone is selling you something and saying it's the same and it's not the same, and you put it in and you get something completely different, like that becomes like a real problem for everybody. But
and think about our scale.
Yep.
Think about how many hides that affects.
Honestly, the scale hurts my brain a little bit, if I'm honestly so used to being such a small.
I can go through the numbers with you sometime. So one thing to keep in mind is we made everything in Portland for a long time. We took it from this, we're selling it at art festivals, to we went on to Etsy. And what you see on Etsy today in terms of leather was all created by me and my marketing team. We went from 0 sales to a top 100 all-time seller of the 2.5 in less than a year.
Wow.
I'm a marketing guy. We broke the market, right? We did everything opposite, right? We went shiny and happy and smiley people rather than that dark brown. I'm in a room and I'm talking. I got some cigars and this is brown and a little bit more brown, right? We went, it's leather, but it's happy. Look, we put a person's smile in there, right? So and this is such a simple thing, and I have to explain this. I know this is a thing of leather, but you guys are businessmen, so I'm going to explain this. They used to use on Etsy a square photo that they would ask. Now, if you're shooting a leather bag, you take a person's face here, and then the bag is over their arm, and the model usually covers it up with their arm. But then when you lead into it, they would crop it down into a landscape, kind of like what we're seeing right here. Right? So the head's getting chopped off, or the bag is. So when you typed in leather tote bag, there was not a single face on Etsy for years because there's just no way to get it. I took a bearded guy shoved the thing up against his like this and took the pictures. See the bag and his face like this. I've seen that picture on buses in Mexico. It took off. First of all, a guy selling a woman's bag, laughing, and the bag and the smile. So if you typed in leather tote bag, it's the only face you saw on the page on Etsy. It's the only one.
Huh.
So everyone's like, ooh, I'm going to click that. So the algorithm said that one's more important. So we literally broke Etsy. We just blew up. We moved to portlandleathergoods.com, portlandleather.com. And then the pandemic came. And I'll tell you what, we had all of the clicker presses, all the process, all the lean manufacturing, all the employees in Portland. And all of a sudden, we're going to be out of business. We're literally going to be out of business. And one of my employees said, books will be written about people who got afraid and people who expanded. And I said, well, we're getting our leather from Lyon right now. And one of the problems is if we get the leather up here and it's bad, it costs more to send it back over the border than it cost. So I flew down and I started up a leather bag manufacturing down here in Lyon. And we're now the largest leather bag manufacturer in all of Mexico, if not North America.
Are you, and that's just for Portland leather? You're making only for yourself?
We only make for ourselves. And
that's incredible.
For ourselves. Yeah.
It's impressive.
Good for you.
Yeah.
We have 18,000 square meters of space.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
I mean, just to hold, 250,000 feet of leather, you got to have a pretty large facility. Well, let me ask you this. I selfishly, very self-serving here and sort of a non-leather topic. A small brand like myself, it's interesting to hear you talk because when I started my brand, Ashland Leather, we saw Nick's leather was being used for mostly men. It was a lot of men's footwear, heavy, oily, waxy, like very masculine. So my business partner, Dan, and I thought, well, why don't we show the other half of the world that they can experience this nice material as well and maybe do some brighter shades. And we sort of immediately failed. And this was 12 years ago now. We've become successful serving men because we understand men. So I think that's number one is we didn't understand women. But secondly, I don't know if I had the designs to create products that women appreciated. How do you see Portland Leather Good? What was your key to success? To me, it seems to be very much a feminine product. At least it has in the past. Are you
talking about the shirt here, buddy? Are you mentioning the shirt here?
I actually really like your style.
I like that shirt.
Well, it seems like with the breaker boot, it specifically says like this is a boot for men on the ad. And I notice you're trying to maybe expand like I was trying to expand to the other half of the world.
We sell on Portland Leather Goods predominantly women. It's a women's, let's call it a purse brand, okay? Sells shoes and does everything. Patina.com, which is my shoe company that it just started up 8 months ago.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Patina.com.
I gotta look it up.
We've already done over 10 million in sales in the last 8 months.
Dang, dude. And that's the breaker boot?
Yeah, the breaker boot sells on Portland Leather Goods and on Patina.com.
Wow, good for you. That's incredible.
And the thing about that is I hire a lot of women, right? And they run a lot of the top management, but they wanted to get involved in that breaker boot. And I literally just kicked them out of the room and shut the door and said, we are not listening. Are you freaking kidding me? Like you get your say, you'll spend 3 weeks. We had one of our top selling bags I designed with a guy in 1 hour, and they took 3 weeks to choose the closure. I mean, come on, man. Like, it's driving me crazy. On the breaker, they're like, oh, but what about this and what about this? I'm like, this is a guy's boot. This is for guys. I put one on. So down in Lyon, it's a different atmosphere. I know all the tannery owners. I know there's 500, but all the big ones, I am friends with their family. I go to their weddings. I go to their parties. They come to my house. I know the major shoe manufacturers here. So I know who all these people are. So I had somebody make me a boot and I wore that thing for 4 months. And I'm not a boot guy. Okay. And at the first week, I'm like, do I like this? And after 2 weeks, I'm like, nothing else feels right on my foot. Nothing. Just, this is it. Right. Everything else I put on was wrong, and that one had fit to my foot. It was perfect, and it just felt right. And then, when you have your camera out and you click on your camera and you accidentally, the thing you see is your shoe because you got your camera on before you turn it up, started just taking pictures of my boot. And I'm like, you know what? We're missing out just being a bag company. We have the expertise, the leather knowledge, the contacts, the marketing. We should be a shoe brand also. So I got patina.com, which I thought was a brilliant name to own. Thank you.
That's really well done.
Other guys would appreciate that one. Bought it from an older gentleman who owned a paint company who just didn't have it wasn't using it. It took us a month to track him down because he was retired. And to find out who he was and get a hold of him at home and say, hey, we want to do this. Like, well, I don't want a competition paint. And I said, I promise you, we are not going to be selling paint on this site. And he said, here you go. And we think it's a fantastic name to source that up. So I want you to know that I am, and I know this is going to sound weird at first, your guys are leather. And I knew you would say dark brown. And I know I've worked with 20 to 50 different companies like yours that they talk to me. I'm the youngest of 4 boys. I try to do everything opposite of everybody else, right? My older brothers were bigger, stronger, this. I had to try to be more clever than them at all times. So why did I change our photography? Because that's what everyone was doing. One of the first people that I met down here, I was sitting in a restaurant down here in Lyon, and this guy looking at me, you can tell he's from the US, and he comes over, and his name was Dave, and he owned Saddleback Leather.
Oh,
yeah. They make their bags right here. And he said, hey, do you want to come and take a look at my factory? And I went and looked at his factory, really nice guy. And I looked at his website and I said, that's what everybody has thought for 50 years, what a leather company looks like. Dark brown, manly, this over-the-top thing. And I'm like, why don't you go where someone else is not? It's a great Emmitt Smith line, right? Emmitt Smith, the great running back for Dallas. They're like, what's the key? And he's like, I run where they ate.
Yep. Simple
like,
as
run
that.
Through, I don't run right where everybody, I like run around them, right? I really love that quote. And I keep that in mind in business. My photographers, my designers, they always want to do what they've seen. So they look up other leather companies and they try to reproduce what that is. And everyone starts to look alike. And then everyone markets the same. And there's no damn difference, right? But I make it in my garage. I make it. Hey, we all make it, right? I wanted something that visually looked different. And it's fun that you said, boy, when I went on your site, I'm like, what the hell? That looks different.
Yeah, it's bright.
But the key to that working is those brown leathers, guys. They got to open up that box and they got to smell that it's real full grain leather. They got to wear it. The best thing, and you guys will appreciate this because I've done this myself. I've seen our own bags a couple years later, and I thought, wow, I wish we could make a bag that good. And then I realized it was ours. It just started looking so good. I've seen wallets that we made for people 5 years ago that I'm like, oh my gosh.
Well, that's the best. Your name Patina is so apt because that's, for us, the way that the material changes. That's what's special about leathers. It's beautiful. Feels good, smells good, looks good, all the aesthetics, but also there's not many things that you can wear that are going to get better when you use them. So it's not surprising that you see a product of your factory that's just better 5 years later. To me, that's what it's all about.
I find myself wondering like, well, how can we make something that looks like that when it goes out the door? And it's not because it's,
you mean looked aged and
looks sort of burnished and beautiful like that. Which is it kind of cheapens it because it always looks better if you get there the right way, if you get there naturally. But I think that I'm looking on your site, and you've got a little blurb saying that, no two products are the same. And I think the part that I'm impressed with the most about this whole thing is that you have managed to explain this many times, this successfully, that no two products are the same. Because I think that's a fight that every leather manufacturer, every leather goods manufacturer, shoe manufacturer has is, you have to educate the customer, to sort of the nuances of the product and explain that that's one of the things that makes it better because not everyone is into that. And some people want to buy something that's going to look the same day, the same that it does day one as it does day, 500. So I think that's, I guess it's, in the question in there is how, in the fact that you're a marketing guy. So how did you deliver that message? Because I don't think it's that easy to deliver.
I delivered it this way. It's kind of like my dad saying, never buy a new car. The second you drive it off the lot, it's not worth that much. The way that I explained it from the word go was, if you buy a mass-produced bag, the day you walk out of the store is the best that bag will ever look. With our products, the best it's going to look is in 2 and 3 and 5 years. There it is. And that's the truth of the matter. And that immediately turns it around, because I'm going to also tell you another thing that we changed on our marketing that is something for people who haven't grown to our thing. And it's, some artisans try to make themselves the heroes. And we did that at first, right? We had this beautiful loft in Portland, and we put the pool table in, and we took pictures, and we hired people with beards and pretty girls to hand make these things. And
we would fit right in.
Look, we're the heroes, man. We're the heroes. We're making this. Well, all things are made by somebody. What we realized is our marketing changed when we made the people who are using our bags the heroes. I mean, we have something called the Portland Leather Goods Insiders, PLG Insiders, and it's 65,000 cult-like following. I mean, literally thousands of messages a day. I mean, they are on there every day checking everything out, and they support each other and they tell the stories. There's a woman who lost her job, and she bought a bag, and she posted, says, lost my job today. I bought this bag so that when I get a new job, I can walk in with pride. A week later, she got a new job that paid more than her old job in what she wanted to do. She got her job, and she said, I just bought my sister a bag because she needs to change her life too, right? All of a sudden, that person speaking for you is I'm not a hero because I fixed the sewing machine and figured out how to stitch that inside seam of that bag. They're out there doing the things. Some of our number one people we sell to are nurses and teachers. Why? Because they make a moderate amount of money. They're not going to buy a $3,000 bag. They need to carry their shit every day. And they go to work and everyone says, where the heck did you get that? Mm-hmm. Everyone sees it every day. So all of a sudden, the whole wing of the hospital has one of our bags because leather has that ability to do it.
Have you thought about doing non-leather? I'm sorry to interrupt you. Have you thought about doing non-leather bags also in addition to the leather? No,
I'm too stupid to do that.
Well, I know like a brand like Coach, right? They do like, I don't even, it's like painted canvas, right? It's, I don't know.
No.
I mean, they're successful with it too.
They're very successful. The best quote we ever got was from one of the largest hardware suppliers in the world. And he said he's never seen a brand grow this fast since Coach in the 90s. He literally said, oh
my God, I love that you said that, because for me, I'm nowhere near as good as them, but that's my model for my brand, Ashland. I just thought the material that they chose, and actually the lack of pigments and paints, it was like very much an aniline finish that they were doing back then. You see bags today that are from the 90s that are Coach, and they're just really, really nice and well made and stuff. So it's incredible. So do you perceive yourself as potentially a new Coach type of brand?
Yeah, we're us.
Yeah.
We're just a bunch of broke Portland artists who put together something, built it up. We never want to scale up our prices that way, because what I'd say when people ask what Portland is like, which is an amazing city, we are Seattle on minimum wage, right? Seattle has an economy. They got Microsoft, they got Amazon, they got real people. We're just a bunch of freaking hipsters, okay? And everyone's broke, and everyone's got someone sleeping on their couch, and we're not going to invest $1,000 and $2,000 in a bag. Even if you had the money, we're not going to do it. So I created by that mindset, and I'm probably cutting off things by not raising our prices and not doing, but I just can't. And you guys know how hard working with leather can be.
Yes.
It's not easy. Somebody one time said, what is the secret? And I said, we're the only ones stupid enough to do leather at this scale. because it would be so easy to change to a covered leather. It really would. Just cover it up, stamp that thing, make it look like it's a pebble, do what everyone else does. You can still call it leather, and every bag would look alike.
Right.
And it just sucks. I just can't do it. I can't take our customers and send that stuff out to them.
I want to. I don't disagree with you here. I do want to push you a tiny bit. Forgive me,
Please.
Curtis.
I like being pushed. Actually, I told you, youngest of 4 boys.
Let's go for it. So, number one, I think quality is subjective. So when you say this, we're using the best leather. I have in my mind what a best leather is. In your mind, what makes your leather more appealing to you? What makes it better for your taste?
I'm going to give you a number of answers to that. Okay. One of the reasons is the largest shoemaker in Mexico is called Flexi. Okay. I am friends with the gentleman who bought leather for him for 30 years. And he came into our factories and looked at our leather and said, "You son of a bitch, you're using the best leather in North America." I also know this. We actually have a reputation in Leon for taking all the best leathers, right? Because we're willing to pay that money to get that A and the B off the truck, and everyone else can.
You're talking about grain clarity in this example. Yeah, I don't know if do you guys do like a Satra grading kind of thing, or how are you achieving an A? Like, what does that mean?
To us, in a basic truck that comes in of leather, and that's a semi-truck load, it has a certain amount of square footage of hides, around 40,000 square foot. Okay. It's broken down into roughly 40 to 42 square foot per hide. That is only going to get about a 15% of what will be deemed an A quality. We do that is if you make because we use large panels for our bags. Yep. We don't use, right? So you need to get a certain number of panels out of that is an A, certain number of panels is a B, certain number of other panels is a C. So we have ways. I don't know if you know this from Portland Leather Goods. You can see it on your site. We have almost perfect. And an almost perfect bag is when you have a few flaws on there that you're like, gosh, is somebody going to be pissed when they get this? So we call it almost perfect. The leather is just as good. It just has a few more flaws on it. No one's going to know.
We're talking bug bites, healed scars, scratches, or things like that.
Not even that much.
Okay.
Our stuff is so good, it's not even as much as you're picturing on there, right? But it's like most people are looking at it saying, I'm trying to find what's wrong with this bag. So they feel like they've stolen from us. They really like, wow, I got one and there's nothing wrong with this bag, right? We own that. We trademarked it, marked Almost Perfect. And I'm going to tell you this, more people own Almost Perfect bags than premium bags with Portland Leather Goods.
Wow. Okay, because I'm looking at your normal price, honestly, just the normal retail, the non-imperfect stuff. I don't know how you would call it. Your regular product.
Premium.
Your premium product is, in my mind, an aggressive price. And again, before we turn on the camera with you here, and Nick and I were like, man, how do you make a bag that size, a tote bag, for example? How do you do that for $120 or whatever? It's, to us, the material that we're familiar with, that's the full cost plus for the bag. You know, if I made a bag like that, it's $200 in leather. So,
especially if it's from us.
Yeah, especially if it's from Nick. Nick here.
Yeah, we're not
absolutely.
cheap yet.
Yeah, I just that's impressive that you're selling more of that. I mean, it must be the scale that you're at. You're able to achieve some of these smaller margins. I don't even know. It's not in my business to know your margins, but it must be really difficult to make some money at the price points that you're doing, unless that scale is just so tremendous and just so it's so foreign to me where you're at.
So
you know,
that's a marketing question, and you're looking at it from a maker perspective, right? You're looking from it from a leather and a thing. So there's two things on the other side that you're not actually looking for. Now, I mentioned that more people own an Almost Perfect than a premium. Now, what they do is they usually buy a premium first. And they like it. And they're like, well, I could save a little bit more money if I bought an Almost Perfect. And they go online and everyone's raving about the Almost Perfects. You're like, I'll give it a shot. And then you're like, wow, that quality is just as good. Okay. So that is a way to get the return buyer, right? Everything in business gets more expensive. We spend so much on software, on people, on logistics. Everything goes up. The only benefit that you have long-term in scaling a business is somebody telling somebody else about your product. That's the only thing. You take all your marketing costs away when that happens, right? I told you about the nurses. I told you about the school teachers. We spend a lot of money. I would blow your mind if I told you that we'll spend between 25 and $30 million in online advertising this year.
I believe it. Mm-hmm.
More people hear about our products by someone telling them than by Google.
So word of mouth is worth $30 million, right?
So there's the word of mouth to get new customers, and there's the retention of the old customer to continue to buy. If someone buys, it doesn't matter if it's a $10 keychain from us, right? Doesn't matter if it's a $160 bag. Does not matter. If they buy a second time, their value over the lifetime goes up to over $680 because they keep buying and they keep buying and they keep buying.
Let me put some words in your mouth then.
All right.
It sounds like, Curtis, you're saying the best thing to do is make a great product with materials that are pleasant. You know, is that the key to getting this repeat customer?
The number one thing, and here's the catch, you got to get the customer in the first place, and then you got to get them to buy again. You can't do it with one or the other, right? You can't do it with, oh boy, it's so great, but people are dumb. They won't buy it. It's worth it. They're just dumb. People aren't dumb. You're not selling it in the right way, okay? Number two, how do you get them to buy again? That is the journey. And that product is dead center in there. If you have anybody can sell a crappy product for a little while, but if you're going to run something out year over year, we double every single year. We double every single year. We're going to more than double this year.
Wow.
Okay. In order to, if you start thinking that exponentially, you better have great product, great customer service, great word of mouth, and continue that on. You have to have that. But the first thing is you have to get the customer in the first place. Either one of those misses and you're out. So that's kind of the game that some people have a great product and their friends like it, but no one can buy it from them. Some people, they get people to buy it, but they don't have the long-term retention. That's why Horween has been so great for so long, right? Because people bought it and now they know that it's great. It's generation after generation after generation. I'm guaranteeing you Nick's grandfather was better at this stuff than him, but it doesn't matter. The leather's still great and he's still doing a good job on it, right?
Thanks, Grandpa.
Yeah. I do ride the coattails a little bit. No, I think that, I mean,
the formulations haven't changed, Curtis, in 100 years. So
yeah.
There is a lot there. You're right.
Also, we're sort of stupid in that we're like, we make stuff because we just like it and we're not, and then we're like, oh, maybe that wasn't as profitable as we hoped it would be. But it's just, there's a degree of passion there, but it's just because we've done it since 1905 the same way. So it's, there's a certain amount of sort of stubborn pride that exists, but I'm still fixated on the fact that you've gotten so many people to accept the sort of the natural characteristics of leather, and then the almost perfect line of thinking just takes that even a step further. Yeah.
Oh, and you want to hear the real key? You want to hear the last one?
Yeah,
here?
Make us rich, Curtis.
Go into Portland Leather Goods and look up mystery box.
Oh, I've seen this.
Stock, okay? A mystery box is a random color and 4 mixtures of small products. You don't know what color you're getting. You do not know what you're going to get in there. We cannot keep them in stock. We'll put up 300, 400, 500, 600 in a day, and they'll be gone within hours.
Incredible.
Well, why? Because we don't have those colors in the lineups, or people are searching for those other ones in the lineup. And what it allows us to do when we make those big panels on these, we can actually take those small scraps and turn them into something else. It's kind of like I've used it as Wendy's. I was in Great Falls, Montana growing up when the first Wendy's was put there. My dad took me there because I'm a meat and cheese on my burger type of guy, right? And in the old days, McDonald's and Burger King would screw you up. They pre-made them and they all had stuff on it. So they'd have to make it special for me. And they always messed it up. So I'm thrilled. And I went on there and before we went in the store, they had the burgers on there. And my dad said, what do you do if no one comes in to buy the burgers? Right? Because they're grilling at all times. Do you guys know? What do they do with the meat?
They make it into chili?
Yeah. They chomp it up and they shove it right off the end into the chili. So there's no waste. The key to keeping your price down on this is being able to use those hides to get the best leather out there and to use it all in an efficient making way. So while they're chomping the bigger pieces, they're cutting the smaller ones, right? And we're able to put those together. But you can only sell so many wallets, right?
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you said that because that's my bread and butter is wallets, men's wallets particularly. And I don't know how we become so fortunate. We sell everything we can make. We're always behind, probably in a similar way to you. And that's the question. It's funny that you said the mystery box thing because I used to do mystery boxes as well when we were much less busy. We had never advertised back then. So it was like a good way to like get a little buzz in the internet. But my surprise is with your mystery boxes, you're selling 5, 6, it can be multiple products. There's a lot of work. Like, how do you not run out of capacity? It sounds like you do. You make you sell all the mystery boxes you can make.
Okay. I'm living in Leon, Mexico for 2 reasons. Number one, it's awesome. The people down here are just better people than the people that I meet in the United States on a day-to-day basis.
Come on, Curtis, we're all right.
They have never once have I said, I could call somebody an hour away and say, hey, do you want to go out for dinner? And they're never busy. They will always come. They will always show up. They will always be kind. They always care. I'm a better person when I'm here. I am incredibly happy here. The second reason I'm here is I have to have the production. I wish I was in Portland working on the marketing for the scaling on the marketing. I cannot be because I have to be here to make sure the product is made and be made right and that the leather suppliers are there. We use 11 tanneries, 11 tanneries. And these are the big ones. These are all leather working group. These are all 10 to 30 million square feet a year tanneries. And we're their number one buyer for almost every single one of the tanneries that we work with. Right? When you send it over and you have to do this, the first thing is we did it 2 ways in our production. We lucked it. We started during the pandemic. So what happened at the beginning of the pandemic? All the shoe companies, that 950 shoe companies, you guys, that had all these artisans who have been sewing for shoes for 100 years, got laid off. So we started up a bag company and said, hey, do you want to come work for an American company? We're going to pay you more. I'm going to put a bunch of snacks out here for you. We're going to have a doctor here. We're going to pay your health care. We're going to give you a hug and treat you like real people and treat you nice. And all of a sudden, there started to be a line out the door of the best artisans in Mexico wanting to work for us.
Wow.
After the pandemic came, I wanted more production. So I talked to some other leather bag makers. And I said, hey, can you make this? And I'm like, we can't. All of our best employees are gone. I'm like, oh, that sucks. He's like, no, doesn't suck for you. They're working for you right now.
Oh, geez.
And I said, and I want to tell you guys, they had no hard feelings. They're like, no, I called them up. They love it. Like, you are treating them well. We found the nicest gentleman in the world to run it, whose number one goal is that these are the best people and they are family and we love them and we're going to treat them well. And they take such pride. They're so much better than what we were making in Portland. The stitching's better. The quality is better. Everything is they're the best in the world. They are literally the best artisans in the world making our stuff. So you're like, wow, how can you make it so fast? They're really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to do that myself when I first started. Like, I'm sure you're much better at it. When I first started making my journals, I legitimately, being the youngest and having an inferiority complex, I would make one thing and I'd run upstairs and show my girlfriend, look, I made one.
Yep.
She's like, yeah, shut up. Go down and make 20 more, you dumbass. But I complete one and I'd walk into the other room to show them that it was done.
You know what, Curtis? That is the key thing. There's a lot of people that can make great stuff, and to achieve the scale that you're at, that is monumentally hard. It's the chain of events too, starting with the material. It's hard to get that much leather consistent and have like a reliable source for it. I guess that's why you have 11 tanneries to work with. You're right. There's a different world that opens up. Like for us, we make like 50 wallets a day, and that's a lot for me. That's like, for me, that's like a lot. That is the thing that I think our customers, they like the product, but what they don't appreciate is like how much different it is for one guy in a workshop to make one thing over and over, as opposed to a team to doing like 50 things in that day. It's very difficult. And we're tiny. Like I can't imagine the scale that you're at.
No, that's true. I can't imagine until we got here, but I'll tell you this. What do you do when you're making your stuff? Do you listen to audiobooks? Do you listen to music? Or do you watch TV? What are you doing now?
Well, I honestly, these days, I don't get my hands on the product as much as I'd like. I'll jump in and cut, stamp, sew at times, but most days, like I'm doing a lot of what you do, is a lot of marketing and social media things and talking to our customers. But when I'm in the shop working with people, I'll do podcasts, and I like to talk to the team. I like to see what their lives are like. So it's a lot of chatting. We sort of do a lot of our finishing on like a huge table. It's got to be 15 square feet or 20 square feet. Just this huge table that we all sort of edge finish and do all of our beveling and that sort of stuff at. And we chat, hang out. Why do you ask?
we had 80 people in Portland making our product at one time, and 25,000 square foot building and big ceiling. It was just beautiful, and they're all awesome, and they were in there, and we were working it, and they were really, really good. But the quality of the artisanship and the pride, these were folks for us, and this completely different than you. They were somebody who just graduated from Lewis and Clark, a liberal arts college, and they like to sew when they're young, and they're like, hey, I don't know what, I want a job. Can you show it? This looks really fun. And it was really good to learn and to do it for about 9 months before they decided to go hike the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah. And
we had amazing employees, and they really got great things. One went to teach in Japan. One did go hike the Appalachian Trail. One's parents said, move closer to home and we'll set you up in a business. One got into grad school at Brown. One got into grad school at Dartmouth. They left, right? And so you're always training and you're always doing that. And that was a little bit harder for us. The reason I ask you that question is I would listen to audiobooks and just have on the background, like any series that had 7 seasons, it would just play.
Yeah.
While I'm sitting there putting the things together to start with, right? Stargate. I would never watch Stargate other than I needed 11 seasons of something to just put it together with, right?
Stargate hasn't gotten a plug in 15 years.
Yeah.
You're welcome, Stargate.
It's so funny that you bring up the employees and audiobooks. I had an employee who's incredibly talented. Still respect the guy a lot. He's no longer with us. But
he's no longer working with you?
Yeah, he's no longer working with you. He's alive.
Just making
He's
sure.
still alive. Amir, if you're out there, we love you, man. But Amir would come to our shop and stitch and do all the work. And he was really into audiobooks. We talk about books a lot. And he got into the jungle. He got deep on the jungle. And I think he was so immersed in that story, which is a setting here in Chicago with the stockyards and the mistreatment of...
Yeah, Sinclair Lewis, yeah.
Right. So I think he thought he was a character in that book while he was working with and for me and got really upset. And he's like, I've been listening to this book. I don't think I can work for somebody else. And I'm like, you shouldn't, man. Like, I support you. Go do your own thing. So the audiobooks can be a good, I like it, but it kind of hurt me because he was a great person to work with. Yeah.
No, that's, I was talking to a friend who owned a yoga studio, and I'm like, oh, where is, Donna or Marcy or whatever? She works front desk. She was so great. And she's like, when you teach someone to follow their bliss, it's hard to keep good employees. They take off to go do what they're going to do. And that became a very difficult thing for us. In order to do that. But the pandemic, we would have still been making it would have we would be out of business. we literally would have been gone. There was no good decision. I can go back and say, if everyone's honest with yourself, we were given 2 decisions and both sucked.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do? Do you keep people coming in? Do you pay them? Do you lay them off? Do you let them go? Do you put them on furlough? Do you have them distance? Like, there was no good decisions at that time, and it would have literally broken us. And we were able to come through that thing. And that was really the key.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to do the marketing thing. So from you guys are a higher scale, you're a better company, you do a lot, but I met a lot of people who were out at art festivals initially. And what I found out is there were the people who liked making things. So they made things, their friends said, that's awesome. So they decided they were going to sell that. That was not me. I made it so I could go sit in a tent and talk to a bunch of pretty people on a Saturday afternoon, sitting in a lawn chair. I loved sitting there talking to everybody. I couldn't wait. I made things all week long just so I could go sit on the weekend and talk to awesome people. People are like, I hate doing the events. I'm like, are you kidding me? You sit here with a cooler and drinking some Mountain Dew and having some good food, and people come in and say, did you make this? You're awesome. And you're like, shucks. You're So there was actually about a 3-week period I wasn't doing any art festivals. And my girlfriend said, I'm tired of giving you positive reinforcement. Go back and do another show and have them tell you that you're awesome, because I am done with building up your self-confidence. Get out of here. Go have people tell you that your product's awesome. I loved the marketing side, right? I liked the design side. The sheer production part of it was fun for a couple years.
It's hard. That's the hard part.
Hard.
It's hard to make stuff.
Yeah, it is. It's brutal.
I'm going to push you again, Curtis. This one's going to hurt. This is going to hurt really bad. The last one didn't get you at all. Completely deflected. We were sort of deep into the footwear boot world. And again, this is like Americana, like rugged, tough guy stuff. You mentioned you're not so much into boots yourself, which is absolutely fine. Everybody's different. So we are even so nerdy that we're in like several communities of people that wear boots as a group, and they'll share with how these boots and different leathers and different makers of footwear have worn in, just how much they've developed a patina. And when I look at your branding and some of your marketing, you say, hey, we're using very sustainable product. This is a sustainable product. And what concerns me about the breaker boot, and if I've done some research, it's my understanding that the breaker boot, you did have a Goodyear welt initially and may not be doing that any longer. But I suppose the question there is, why not do a recraftable boot? And how are you approaching sustainability?
We're a recraftable boot because I've worn both and I liked the other one better. That's number one. It just is. Number two, it's a better price. Number three, I tried to talk to the market out there, and other the people that are nerds about boots, no one even knows what the hell it is.
Right.
People will tell you that everybody cares about it, but that's just like everyone saying everyone cares about Stargate, okay? They really don't, just for friends, okay?
Good callback. Yeah.
And then another one on that is there are certain people that make that welting process, okay? There are certain people who do that. And what happens is there is one brand in particular, about 3 that make welted boots, who said, hey, we're going to sell $500-$600 boots, and we're going to pay twice as much for the people who can make that. And especially during the pandemic and after, because there's a labor shortage all over the entire world, guys, right? Mm-hmm. They're trying to pull those people who sit there and hammer that nail in there. And you're limited down. So you're either dealing with people who aren't as good as they say they are on it, or people who are literally going from place to place trying to get the highest value because of their artisan skill. And if we wanted to be consistent, make the boot consistent every single time to ensure the quality, we moved away. And guess what? We tested it. People didn't care about the welted. They just didn't.
And you like the aesthetic without the welting.
Oh, wait, let me tell you a 10-minute story about why this one is better. And they're like, I don't care. I gave up listening to you a while back. That's a great boot. It's got a bunch of great reviews. People want that. I want to do that. And we were actually able to take the top quality people who make that cemented boot rather than the bottom tier quality who make a welted boot. And you guys know, if you've hired people, there's a big difference. What do you call the dumbest person who graduated medical school? Doctor.
Yeah, they're the same.
What do you call the dumbest guy who convinced somebody they're making that welted boot correct?
Yep.
Well, you're calling it a welted boot. And is that quality really up to it? Absolutely not. It's just not. I know these, and I'll tell you, I work with, I'm a really good friends with Ruben of Picaris, which is one of the number one boot makers in the world. And we're really good friends. And he's got the people. He's got the best. And I won't tell you what brand he makes for, but they're really good. And they're really pricey. And if you want to start a company that makes at this level and can sell to somebody like in Portland, what I'm talking about, who's not buying a boot for the next 5 years, you get a quality cemented boot. There's no difference. I can tell you, because I wore the damn boots for a year and I kept putting them on. And for something around that welted boot, which made identical to the other one, other than the welt, I liked the other one better.
Mm-hmm. And as somebody that is a marketer and also has a footwear brand, how much do you admire or not admire Thursday Boot? Are you a fan?
I know Thursday. They make here in Leon. I know some of the people that work with them, and I know all their factories, and I know all their tanneries. They did a very good job of getting at that $198 price and sticking with it. They went with that dark brown. Here, we're going to shoot you for 7 years straight at that same thing. And here's our two boots. Here's our captain boot, and here's our here's our whatever the other one is. I think that they did a really good job. They created a D2C company that is successful and profitable, that gives a very good boot to somebody at a reasonable price. Okay. I think they did that very, very well. We are a different company. Our women's brand in the 8 months is already beating out all Thursday's women's boots. It's already bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And the men's boots are good. I have some people working for me who used to work on the Thursday lines and quality control and everything like that. And I have nothing. I'm going to tell you the truth. I don't know that much other than knowing the people that work for him in Leon. I don't know any of the people from the US that work for him. Yeah. I think they did a very good job of branding. I think I'll tell you the brand that I admire is Tecovas.
Yeah. Why?
They're going to own $1 billion company within 5 years.
Wow.
They're going to own the market. They've taken a $100 industry of Luke Casey and all these old school guys who are only going to wear this. And they started up, and I know the story of how they started up because a friend of mine told me. The guy flew down, said, I don't know how to make boots. How can you do it? And they turned him away. They sent him to somebody else. They made it for the 8 months until he started building it up, came to some of the best makers. They make amazing quality. They make exactly what they make. They're making Western, right? That's it. They're going with a simple style. It took them 3-4 years before they say, hey, we finally changed and have an alternative of either a snub no or a pointed toe, right? It took them, they pounded out that for 4 or 5 years until they even changed that much, right? Now they have that so solid and they have that foundation, they're able to sell you a pair of jeans and you trust them because you liked their boots. They're willing to sell you this because they like that. And that creates a brand. That is what a brand truly is. If you think Western, in 5 years, Tecovas is going to own that particular brand of D2C consumers. They're going to be amazing. I have met with some of their people down here, and I'll tell you what, the steps they're making in their business is absolutely awesome. They're fantastic.
It kind of reminds me of like a Levi's play or something. You know, you're known really well for jeans, and then they expand into a little bit more of like a lifestyle kind of thing.
As long as you have the foundation, you can add quality products that people trust. Because I have a bunch of college degrees. and I was doing my PhD program, and I dropped out because I was just miserable. And I was trying to get a job. And my brother told me to become an insurance salesman because all the people who golfed with him never worked because they're insurance salesmen.
Curtis, I
So
think you'd be a really good salesman of any product, by the way.
I had to buy a suit. I didn't own a suit. And I went in and I talked to a bunch of people who were trying to sell it. And then I got this older gentleman who said, "What do you need and what do you need it for?" And he walked me through the 15 to 20 minutes and said, "Well, this one looks better on you. This is going to be better for it." And I literally shook his hand and gave him a hug and said, "Thank you. I wanted to buy something, and you gave me the comfort to own something that I know is going to be awesome." So what these brands like a Tecovas is going to do is they're going to say, you trust us. Why don't you trust us with these other things too? And after you do it, they're going to have that lifetime value, that recurring customer, that word of mouth that is going to spread that company and save those margins on what their company is doing. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So it's not this big play. Everyone's looking for the big play. They're just continuing to give people what they want. If you go to buy a leather bag on the internet, you're like, uh-oh, who's going to tell me the best story? Who has the best picture? Really, what do I want for the right price? I want that because you're in the leather business and you're in the leather wallet business. And the beauty about this is, especially people under the age of 40, if you talk to someone who's 55 and older, they think about what type of people between 45 and 60 think, what am I going to put in my house, right? They own their house, they're bored with it, so they want stuff to go on their walls. If they're in their 60 to 80, they look for shit they can put in their garden, right? They want to shove something outside and put it in their garden. If you're 40 or under, the most important things are the things you carry every day. You get on and you leave the house to go out and do something. So what type of boots do I have on? What type of socks? Where's my belt? Where's my wallet? Where's my case to my iPhone? And where's my union hat?
Yeah.
Like that's exactly what they do. So if you can make for that niche of this is something that somebody uses every day, they fall in love with that and they will trust you for the next purchase that they make. That's what's happened with our bags, right? That's what happened with those boots that I wore that I told you. I had the welted boot. I had the non-welted boot. I wore them both all the time. Why did I choose the one? I liked it better.
But the look of the non-welted, do you like?
They could make that identical one in a welted. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
It was something about that just felt better on my foot.
Really interesting.
So I go with my gut. I was talking to the head of a large shoe factory down here, very, very well known. It's made for all the big brands that you guys know. And he said, "Curtis, I know you go with your gut, but sometimes you need to read, my friend." And all of our people started laughing because I make decisions off of what I feel is right. Is this picture right? Is this somebody I want to work with? Do I like them? Do I trust them? If I have a little red flag go up, I have learned in business, just don't even go down that path.
Mm-hmm.
Just work with the best people who you respect and admire. That's really the way to do it.
I'm with you on that. And when you talk about Tecovas, or I was talking about Levi's, sort of broadening the product offering, do you see a future for Portland Leather's products expanding into different directions?
No, but Patina will.
Okay.
Patina is for that because we control so much leather and so much of the bag market and so much of the full grain leather in León, Mexico, that I cannot continue to scale that. And we have all of our people begging, what else can we buy from you? Patina is something that will be more of a lifestyle brand. It will sell things that we don't make at all. Now, right now, we make the shoes. We make every single one. We don't even let the tannery buy leather, right? If you come to make shoe, they make you a sample and they source everything, right? We don't allow them to do that. We say, no. You're going to use our leather. And every single shoemaker said, you don't have to use that good of leather. Your leather's too good. It costs too much. Stop using such good leather. And we're just like, well, we kind of got in the habit. We just like, we'll suck up that cost because that's the boot that's going to turn into something beautiful. Right?
Yeah. So are you're thinking maybe for the Patina brand, you might do something clothing and non-boot stuff? Where are you thinking to go?
Well, I will tell you, and let's work off the name Patina. We have leather jackets that just launched, which are doing great.
Nice.
And also, when I think of the word patina, I think of metal and the rusting of the metal. We have a jewelry company coming out next year and a watch company coming out next year.
Sheesh. Good for you.
And it's going to be based on the same premises of Portland Leather Goods, which is, not a lot of people know this, but 96% of all bottles of wine sold in the world are $10 or under.
I believe it.
There's a lot of crappy wine.
That's true. There we go. There we go.
We've all been there with the Boone's Farm, right?
Yeah. Bartles and James wine coolers. Back in high school was what they drank. But that's probably too old for you guys. Sorry about that, Bartles and James. The watches are going to be literally phenomenal, and they're going to be at a price that you can buy. And so I'll send you guys some.
Oh yeah, hook us up, Curtis.
Yeah, I can hook you guys up.
How do you feel like it would compare to somebody like a Shinola? Because I see I guess they're not doing jackets, but they've done like the leather stuff, and they've done the watches, and they've done bicycles. Are you inspired by them at all?
I can respect Tecovas. I can respect Thursday.
You're not into Shinola.
I know too much about them.
Okay. At the fossil history is
no, you're taking someone who made hundreds of millions and billions of dollars in the watches and said, how do we sell in the U.S. market and pretend like we're making things in the U.S. market? So we'll buy our stuff from overseas, we'll chomp it up, we'll send it to Detroit, we'll do the final finishing touches so we can say made in America, and then we'll charge you $800 for it, right?
I was just saying, it's not all that uncommon to do a bunch of manufacturing offshore and then to bring it somewhere to finish manufacturing so that you can say that it's made in a certain place. And I think that I don't like the practice, but I guess I understand it. But
nothing is made in one place these days anymore. It's almost irrelevant. Right?
Yeah.
No, I mean, the number one economic border in the world right now is between Mexico and the U.S. It's just the number one border.
Yeah.
You guys got all the workers, all the good people to make stuff.
Well, well, first of all, there's a demographic curve, right? As we went through globalization, everyone's going to have labor problems because everyone moved to the city. And as you move to the city, all of a sudden your children, where 8 of them on the ranch seemed like they were labor, now they're expensive furniture. Now they're actually a liability. So you want to have fewer kids. As that's changed, the labor market has just shrunk it. The demographics, there are fewer young people than there were. The most people are now retiring. So you do not have the labor. That hurts you in 2 ways. Number one, it hurts you because you don't have the people to make it. And number 2, you don't have people to buy it. Remember, we talked about the houses? 50-year-old already owns the furniture in their house. That's why when you buy somebody's house who died when they're 85, their furniture is 50 years old. They never changed it because they bought it when they're young and they kept that stuff, right? They're not buying new furniture at 72. So you're losing your people who are making it and the people who are buying. You have Catholics. They started globalization and modernization later in Mexico. So they have larger families, they have more of a workable people, and they're skilled artisans. So most of the things that are made in Mexico are actually started in the US, sent down to Mexico, and then sent back up. They're made in multiple places. I've been through these tanneries. I've seen it done. I've seen the automotive. I've seen your steering wheels on your Ford, on your Broncos being made, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're amazing. The technology is amazing, but that stuff coming from all over the world that's being done. We're in a globalized world and nothing is being made. I am proud beyond belief that I have the happiest, best, sweetest artisans in the world working here in Mexico. I was proud when we made it in Portland. I think it's a little bit of a game to pretend, because I know what it's like to be in my garage making every single one of those journals. Mm-hmm. And I would hate for someone else to say, look, I really did this. And all they're doing is buying it off of Amazon or Alibaba and stamping something on there.
Yeah. That seems to be very common these days, especially on Etsy.
I have one more question. And it's a little bit, it's going back to something that you said earlier. And I'm interested because I know, because you've been in a bunch of different tanneries and you use enough product to have an opinion that I think is informed. But so you said something about the leather working group, I think, LWG. And I just am curious as to how, I mean, this is a pretty selfish question, but how does the like the sustainability sort of auditing industry specific process, how much does that affect your decision making when you're thinking about new products or new facilities to use?
It doesn't. I'm going to be honest, and you don't have to
I love
cut this
that
out.
answer. I really do. Just give me a good
really
leather.
But it has both sides to it. Okay, number one, all the good ones are. Lafargue has their own water treatment plant. Their leather working group goal. They work with their sources. They do that. Okay, literally, they're amazing. So they can tell all their international clients and Pan Americana. They all want to say that. Okay, they also they get better, and then other people feel that they have to do it, and that's fine. But if there's a little tannery, like our best tannery is a little one that is non-leather working group, that is a family owned for 85 years. I literally am dear friends with the family, and they're just awesome. They make our number one leather, and it is just perfect, and no one else can reproduce it. And no matter what, everybody's like, oh, we're the best. No, they're the best. And whether they have a leather working group or not, they make the best leather. It does not bother me at all. Now, am I happy that there's that move to have everything being more healthy for the environment, better, and everything else? Yes. Are there also downsides to that? Yes. Does it take time? Sure. In my view, what's the best leather? Now, all of the bigger tanneries are all leather working group.
Yeah,
and that little tannery
definitely.
we're talking about is hurting themselves financially as they're trying to make all the changes to become that. And I literally said, guys, you're awesome. You do everything right. You don't have to go through expensive processes just so somebody says you're awesome. You guys are already awesome. But
Nailed it. Honestly, I mean, that's been my experience with LWG.
Yeah, they're actually, they'll randomly tell people to use certain chemicals or not. And the leather sometimes made with the leather working group, they can't get as good as the other ones because they've changed their chemicals. They have to have that. And I'll tell you what, I'd rather have that better leather. That'd sure be a lot nicer.
There's a tough. I know you have to get going, but it's tough. I mean, so is it more sustainable if it's made with that product that they don't want you to use anymore, or is it more sustainable if it lasts 5 times as long? I mean, where is the intersection point?
That's a very small factor. The biggest factors are where they source from, their water, their environmental standards, the entire checklist that they do. That's really what it's about. They have to go through so much. That's just a very sub small thing. I've only heard
I'm aware.
I know you are. That's why you are very, very, very aware. I'm just saying, I work with the tanneries because I like who they are, the leather they make. If are they honest and good people, and are they trying to make the world a little bit better place? I don't care if they have the leather working group stamp at all.
Hey, Curtis, it's been such a pleasure. It's been really nice to meet you too. I feel like you could sell me anything, so I'm going to buy some stuff and send us a watch in exchange.
Okay, we will get you some watches. Send an email back. Mariana will.
Okay.
Get you
Well, I just wanted to say too I came across, that wasn't a lie. I came across from your ad. I found it on, probably on Facebook or something. It's like, what's this boot? And I just sent a message. I was like, I'd like to talk to the owner. Can I do that? So I just sent it to the customer service. They got back to me quickly. So a little bit of a testament to your customer service, and they ended up connecting us.
The funny thing is, I have refused to do LinkedIn or any video, nothing. I have done nothing. 10 days, maybe a month ago, I've just said, okay, I will start doing interviews. And
nice.
I think that's about exactly when I messaged too. So I guess I got lucky.
Oh, really? You got in under that, and I'm like, I don't even know these guys, but they seem nice. And we'll do it. So what the hell?
Yeah. Well,
hey, it's been a pleasure. Hopefully, I'd like to come down and meet you in Mexico sometime. I would love to see Leon.
We'll pick you up. I'll show you if you ever want to learn about all the tanneries down here, which is a completely different thing.
I do.
I'll stay here at my beautiful house. I'll show you around, and I also have a place in San Miguel Allende, which is the #1 city in the world, on a vineyard. We'll go hang out there for a couple of days.
Maybe they'll let me in if I'm with you. I'll make up some fake business cards.
Yeah, you get a different last name to get into Leon.
I was talking more to him.
Oh, okay.
Hey,
Never
thanks
mind.
so much, Curtis. I really appreciate
Curtis.
you doing this.
Thanks,
Have a great
Will.
day.
Thanks. Bye.
Take care.
See you.